ask Melissa to start making her way up here. She's a little nervous, so that's okay. And Melissa's involved with a really important organization, and so I wanted her to give a little bit of a testimony on her organization and what she's involved in. So, Melissa, you can come on the stage, or you can stay down there, whatever's most comfortable.
If I get a choice, I'm staying down here. Normally, when I'm talking to crowds of people, they're half your age, so being in front of my peers is a little nerve-wracking, so just pray for me. When I was laying in bed this morning feeding my 5-month-old infant, I was praying, okay, God, what is it that you want me to say? How do I tell people about this place that I work at? And what is the message that you want them to hear? And I was like, okay, should I write a speech? What should I do? And he's like, Melissa, just relax, go to sleep, I've got this. So basically, some of you may know me as the girl who gave birth at home to an almost 10-pound baby back in October. Yeah, that was a God miracle in itself. But what you don't, or you might not know, is that I work, okay, I feel like I've got my back to you, so I guess I'm coming up here. What you may not know is that I work at an agency, a nonprofit organization in Highland, Indiana called Fairhaven Center for Women. And basically what we do is work with women who are survivors of violence. When Fairhaven started 10 years ago, it started in an office with just 2 people. And they said, what in the world are we doing? But God said, I've got this and I've got you. I'm happy to report that in 10 years we've grown, like almost tripled in size. The staff grew from 2 to almost 9. It's like 8.5 if you consider our volunteers. God is doing amazing things at Fairhaven. Some people say that they like their jobs. I have to tell you, I love my job. Because working with this population, specifically I work with adolescent girls who have been traumatized. And working with this population can be hard, it can be heavy. I don't know if you know this, but Indiana was rated 2nd in the nation for the highest rates of adolescent sexual violence in the country by the CDC of Indiana females in 9th to 12th grade. 17.3% reported forced sexual intercourse as compared to the national average of 10.5%. And because of this report that came out, we at Fairhaven, not only did we want to work with those that have been hurt, but we wanted to do something as far as prevention. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and every year in April we have an annual fundraiser called the Agape Walk. And those donations that we receive at our walk, they have been so helpful. We do not turn anyone away who needs services. And we are a faith-based organization, which means we love Jesus, and God is our president of the company. We pray at our staff meetings, we pray for our clients, with our clients, and I myself have had the opportunity to present Jesus to a few of my clients, which is just awesome. And basically, Agape is our way of trying to tell the community, sexual assault, it's real. 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 6 boys, 1 in 2 women in the country. I mean, this is real. So even though that it's hard for people to talk about it out loud, it's something that we need to speak up about. So the reason I'm up here telling you is that you have an opportunity to join us. We're looking for people who want to walk individually, if you want to form a team, come together. We think it would be awesome if you work somewhere and you get some of your coworkers together and you wear your t-shirts to represent, to come out. There's so many things. We have raffle baskets, so we need items from vendors if you do Mary Kay, Norwex, that kind of thing. But it's a day, it's PG rated, or it's not PG rated, sorry, it's G rated, family friendly. We do things with the kids. So it's Saturday, April 30th. If you can make it. If you can't, we are accepting donations. At our website, you can go to safeport.org if you need to know more information about that. If you do become part of our campaign. We're trying to just, get people to think about this. So we have these groovy little stickers that say breakthrough, prevent sexual assault, that we're going to have people put on their businesses. Striking Goods Hill has agreed to participate, so we're really excited about that. A couple of the other ones in the community. So I just wanted to let you know that you guys are a mission-focused church, and there's a mission right out in your backyard. And I mean, it's amazing what Fairhaven is doing. So
Where is the walk at?
the walk. Oh, yeah, I should probably say that. It's at Liquor Park in Highland.
And it starts at what time?
It starts at 10 o'clock. It's 10 to 12.
Is it going to be like a track to walk around? Okay.
We just walk around the track, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have things for the kids too, because like I said, it's a family-friendly thing, so we have face painting and, fun things like that. So thank you for listening to me and putting up with my nerves and whatever. I really appreciate it. And just pray for Fairhaven, because God is doing amazing things. This little staff, we are working with local law enforcement and doing trainings with them. I'm going to have the opportunity to go into the high schools and work with them. And we are now Lake County's 24-hour rape crisis center. So if a woman is victimized, we send advocates to the hospital, to court, to the police station, wherever she needs us, whenever she needs us for her voice. So it's awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. That is definitely one of the good news, bad news projects. Good news that it's there, bad news that it needs to be there. And so the human heart is it's not a good thing. It needs to be transformed. Not just transformed, it needs to be ripped out and a new one put in place. And so we're thankful for missions like that can help undo some of the tragedy that human beings do to each other. Let me ask you a question. I've got a lot of questions for you today. The first question is going to be, what is church about? And just kind of park that in the back of your mind and be thinking about that. We're going to come back to that towards the end of today's message. But just think about, what is church about? Okay? And then another thing we're going to want you to think about is, I want you to think about the place that you love to go the most. Now, I want you to exclude home. Okay? Just think about some place that you've been that you can't wait to get back to that place that you have been. Would you stand as we ask God's blessing on today's message? Father, we just ask for your Spirit to be on our message this morning as we just take apart more of the parables of Jesus. And this one particularly is really hard. And so we just ask for your guidance and your understanding as we just dive into this and to make it part of our lives and make it part of our walk. And we thank you for the teachings that have been written down for us. And we ask all of this in the name of Jesus. Amen. And you may be seated. So I've given you about 30 seconds to think about some of the places that you really can't wait to get back to. And as you think about that a little bit more, let me give you a chance to tell you what we really like to go to. You've seen pictures of our little place in Florida that we go to. It's down in a little town called Lehigh Acres. And if you've ever been to Fort Myers, if you go to Fort Myers and turn left, you're going to go to Lehigh Acres. And Lehigh Acres in there, and they're tucked away at the very edge of town. You've got to go all the way through town. And clear on the outskirts of town is this little resort. And this little resort, we can't wait to get to every year. The kids love to play there. There's basketball, swimming pool, and there's tennis, and there's bike riding. There's a little 9-hole golf course. It's a great little place to go to, and we can't wait. As our family looks forward to it, we can't wait. It's like the third week of June every year. This year, we're going to be going back down there. We got one of these timeshare things involved. If you've ever been involved in one of those, we got hours for free. And all we have to do is pay the maintenance, and it's about $500. And so for $500, our family gets to go to Florida every year. But it's just not going to Florida, it's the trip on the way down. You see, when we go down, blackberries in Georgia are in full season, and so are peaches. So on the way down, we pick fresh peaches, or we have some that are freshly picked. We pick our own blackberries, and it's awesome. And that's part of the trip. That's part of the fun. So I'm going to open the floor a little bit. Give me some places that you just can't wait to get to when you go. Someone. Neil.
Alaska.
Alaska. You ever been to Alaska? Okay, well, you don't know then. you might go there and say, I'm never going back. Mosquitoes are this big.
I'll go back again.
Wayne's been to Alaska. Would you go back to Alaska? Absolutely. Okay. Yes? Colorado. How many of you have been to Colorado? Love Colorado, the mountains and all of that. Rocky Mountain High has a new meaning nowadays, but still, it's a beautiful place to go. Some other places that you've been to that you can't wait to get to. Hawaii. How many of you have been to Hawaii? A few of you have been to Hawaii. Wow. Sherry and I, that's our dream, to go to Hawaii. So next week we're going to put a bucket up. No. Just teasing. Some other places you've been to that you would love to go back to. You've been there, you can't wait to go again.
Hilton Head Island.
Hilton Head Island. Is that South Carolina? Yeah, they have a big golf tournament down there every year. I'm following the Masters. That's this week, by the way. Not that anybody's paying attention. Yes, Wayne.
And close by Hilton Head is Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach. I've been to Myrtle Beach. Good place to go. One more, yes.
Like Arcadia.
Arcadia. Where's Arcadia?
Maine.
Maine. Okay. Beautiful place. Maine is an underrated state. It's cold up there, but it is a beautiful place. I want to tell you about another place that we love to go to. It's a little restaurant in Valparaiso. We've discussed this before. I even wrote about it in a newsletter. By the way, the newsletter is out. There's a few copies in the Richardson Hall if you don't have one. And it's called Don Quixote's in downtown Valpo. Now, you could probably put Don Quixote's on this stage. I mean, it's a small little restaurant. And Sherry and I love to go there. We go there once a year or so, maybe twice a year, and we love going there. And the reason we love going there is because it's such a perfectly beautiful place. Well, in our eyes it is. And the food is fantastic, but what's special about it for us is that was the place that Sherry took me on her first date. And it's the days that she knew that she was going to ask me to marry her. No, seriously, but it is the place that we went to on our very first date. And so we look forward to going back to that place because it means something to us. We all have these places that we love to go to, and so my question to you is, why can't FCCD be one of those places? And maybe it already is. But just plant that in the back of your mind as we begin thinking about some things that we're going to be tackling today. So just factor all that in today's message. In the book of Luke, the 12th chapter is where we are going to be opening our Bibles to. The book of Luke. Luke is the third book of the New Testament. Luke is a gentleman who was a contemporary of Jesus. And after Jesus' death, burial, and then after his resurrection, Luke then began to write about Jesus. And Luke was a very thorough person. And Luke also gave us the book of Acts. And so Luke is a historian. He would go and he would get the facts together and then he would write them out. And so he's giving to us some teachings of Jesus that he has thoroughly researched from eyewitnesses who were there. And so he gives us this teaching of Jesus. And so we're going to be in Luke chapter 12. And Luke is like I said, the third book rather, in the New Testament. So it goes Matthew, Mark, and then the book of Luke. Luke chapter 12. And verse 13 says this, someone called the crowd, teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me. And so Jesus said, friend, who made me judge over you to decide such things as this? And they said, beware. Guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by what you own. And then Jesus gave a parable. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. And he said to himself, what should I do? I don't have enough room for all of my crops. Then he said, I know what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And then I'll have enough room to store all of my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and I'll say to myself, my friend, you have stored enough away for years to come. Now take it easy. And that famous line, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, you fool, you will die this very night, and then you will forget everything. You will not get anything that you've worked for. Verse 21, listen to this. Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. Stuff. I asked a minute ago, what's your church be about? I have here some tools. I'm going to set my Bible aside here for just a second so I have room for my tools. These are some things that I carry in my car, and they're in my vehicle with me at all times. And on a snowy morning or on a frostbit morning, or when I've got frost all over my windshield, I have a tool for it. Right? And this is not it. But this is what I'm going to use, because this tool has been designed to remove both snow and frost from my windshields. How many of you carry one of these in your car? How many of you park in a garage so you don't have to carry one of these in the car? My wife doesn't have to do that. I do. I have to park in the driveway. And that's another story for another day. So I have here, now, every once in a while, someone will leave the lights on in my vehicle, and I come out with a dead battery. You know there's a tool for that. It's called a jumper cable. Right? So I carry in my car a set of jumper cables in case either myself or if I encounter someone with a dead battery, if they need some help. Now, this right here does nothing to start a car. I mean, I can position this thing in any way that I want to, from battery to battery, and it's not going to jump the car. Now, this makes a really lousy windshield cleaner. It really doesn't work very well at all. But it's great. It's perfectly designed to jump batteries. So each thing has a purpose of its tool. I also carry in my car a whole toolbox. I got this for Christmas. And inside of here, there's like, I don't know, 100 and some odd tools. And inside of here, there are screwdrivers, and there are ratchets, and there are sockets. And man, there's all kinds of things. Now, you guys probably think I don't have any idea how to use this. But I do. I really know how to use these things. And so I do a lot of my own work on my car. And so if there's something that needs to be fixed, I try to get the right tool for my car, whatever it is I'm working on. Those tools provide for me a service. Those tools are useful for me, especially when I use them what they're intended for. If I need a battery jumped, I use battery cables. If I need to take a bolt out of an alternator, then I use the appropriate tool. I don't love the tools. I love the tools for what they can do for me. Let's come back to our lesson. Luke chapter 12. There's this rich guy. And this rich guy thought he had it all figured out. All of the tools that he had were going to be to serve him so that he could sit back and be fat and happy. Without having to do any more work, because he had done all the work, so now he can just sit back, relax, eat, drink, and be merry. He had it all figured out. God says, you know what? You don't have it figured out. You didn't have the most important thing figured out. And so Jesus went on to teach them some more very difficult teachings through the book of Luke in the 12th chapter. And he begins to talk about money and possessions. And he gives some illustrations about, similar to what we find in the Sermon on the Mount, about not worrying about things. And then he says in verse 35, he starts talking about he's going to return, that someday he's going to be coming back. And last week we celebrated Resurrection Sunday, and you know what? The tomb is still empty. And you know what else? Because he's risen from the dead, he's coming back. And so he began to give illustrations and parables about his return. And then he says something, which is the crux of the message today that we want to get to. And this is verse 48. And he says this: "But someone who does not know then and has done something wrong will be punished lightly. When someone has been given much, much will be required in return." I have here a cute little script about Calvin and Hobbes. Anybody a big Calvin and Hobbes fan besides me? I love Calvin and Hobbes. Can you read this? Calvin in the first one says, "Swift kick in the backside, $1. And Hobbes comes along and says, "How's business?" He says, "Terrible." That's hard to believe. I can't understand it. And then Calvin says, "Everybody I know needs what I'm selling." And that's sometimes the way that we treat church. Sometimes we think that church is about giving people their what for. We think that church is about, using our tools so that we can really smack people around. We give a swift kick because that's what people need. And in a sense, Jesus in this passage was giving that to us. Hey, you guys need to wake up. But in this passage, he says this: when someone has been given much, much will be required in return. And when someone has been entrusted with much, even more will be required. That's what I really want to concentrate on today. You see, we've been given a lot. Those who have gone before us, this church was established in 1969. In 1969, we began meeting in a little school not too far from here. We met there for about 3 years. And then we bought the property that we're on right now. And there was a house that sat here. Where nuns used to live in that house. And that house was then torn down, and this auditorium that we see in the Richardson Hall was built. About 15 years later, the classrooms were built, and the church added and grew. And then beyond that, in 2001, the Family Life Center was built. And you know what's really cool about it all? It's completely debt-free. Think about that for just a moment, what we've been given. We've been given a property that is completely debt-free. It's beautiful, it's nice, it's big. And so now we have a question that comes along to us, and with that we can settle in, but we've not been asked to settle in. Those who have built this property for us and given what we have today did not expect us to settle in, but to press on. We can sit back and say, this is now a time like the rich fool to be comfortable. But God has not called us to be comfortable. He's called us instead to be courageous. We can be like the rich guy and we can say, you know what? We have a life of privilege now. Because of the sacrifice of those who have gone before us, we're privileged. But God has not called us to be privileged. He's called us to take hold of our responsibilities and to take hold of the possibilities that now lay before us by those who sacrificed so much, because much has been given. And so now we have at a crossroads of our church, and so we think about what is the future going to look like. You see, here's the thing, coming back to the tools. Everything that we've been given is just simply a tool. This auditorium is a tool. The music it's a tool. The Family Life Center, it's a tool. The classroom's a tool. The library, a tool. The parking lot, a tool. Our music, a tool. Our songbooks, a tool. Preaching, a tool. All of these are just simply tools. They're just simply to be used for something. And I asked the very first part of the question, the very first question I gave to you today was, what's church about? Church is about people. What did Jesus love more than anything else? People. Jesus did not die on the cross and raise from the dead for rabbits, or for orcas, or for blue whales, or for grizzly bears, or polar bears. He died and was raised for people. That is what the church is to be about. We are to be about people. And all of these tools that we have at our disposal are to be used for people. Because that is who God cares the most about. We've been entrusted with so much, not to make us comfortable, not to make us feel privileged, not so we could settle in, but so that we could build for the next generation. You see, the past is wonderful. It's great to think about and to honor those who have built and gone on before us. But our responsibility is for what lies ahead. We plan for what's coming next. You see, we can sit back like the rich fool, and we can say, look at all we have. We can get comfortable. Our building's paid for. We got comfortable chairs. Why, we don't have to do anything. And I'm saying no. Now is the time that we forge ahead with courage into the next generation. So the next 50 years, people can look back and say, now look what we have. Let's build on it. So I want you to join as we think ahead. Let's go to the book of Romans, the 12th chapter. The book of Romans, the 12th chapter, and we're going to be closing with this. Romans chapter 12. Very, very famous book. This book of Romans was written by the guy named Apostle Paul. You might have heard of Paul. Paul has written basically half the New Testament. But Paul's interesting because he was a guy who persecuted the church. And he had a divine revelation where he met Jesus on the road to Damascus, and his life was turned around. And so everything that he knew before now was taken away, and now he was learning something brand new. He had a renewing of his mind. What he once was is no longer what he is now and what he is going to be. It was completely changed by his encounter with Jesus. And so in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, he says this. He says, "And so, dear brothers and sisters, I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all that he has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind he will find acceptable. This is truly the way to worship him." And now listen to this, verse 2. "And don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way that you think. And then you will know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect." So Paul talks about a renewing of the mind. And so today I want to challenge your renewing of your mind with 3 areas. Number one, I want us to begin thinking about a renewal for our personal faith. A renewal for our personal faith. That it's my responsibility. It's up to me. Your faith is your responsibility. What you believe is your responsibility. It's not somebody else's. It's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to give you biblical messages, but it's your responsibility to renew your faith. And so today I want to say, listen, let's grab a hold of this thing. Let's renew what we've been called here to do in Dyer. Let's not sit back and be comfortable. Let's forge ahead with courage. Let's expand out beyond our walls, beyond what we've normally done in the past, and say it's time for something new. It's a new day. And the second thing I want us to have is a renewal of self-sacrifice. What took this, where we're at right now, was extreme personal sacrifices. And Mary will tell you, and Kevin will tell you, Alan, anybody who was here those years ago will tell you of the sacrifice that these guys have made, of the wheelbarrow full of concrete, one after another, to build this floor, to build these buildings. This is all built by the people who were here. Sacrifice was made. So renewal to self-sacrifice. And thirdly, a renewal to involvement. It's not always somebody else's responsibility. It's ours. When someone new walks through the door, it's our responsibility to say hi to them. When the bills need to be met, it's our responsibility to meet them. When it's time to forge ahead and do something courageous, it's our responsibility to forge ahead and do something courageous. So Jesus gives us a very sobering series of teachings in Luke chapter 12 that resonate even with us. Are we comfortable? Are we courageous? Have we settled in? It's time to press on. God has given us so much, but He's not given us so much so we can sit back and say, we've done enough. He's given us so much so that we can do so much more. I have a dream. I have a vision for this church. And sometimes I'm a little afraid to give it out because I'm afraid it might chase everybody off. But I can just give you a little vision of what I have here. Just give you a little, what I would like to see us do. You see that property next door with all those leaves that keep coming on our property? I would love to buy that. I offered them $1, but they turned me down. I don't know why they would turn me down, but I don't want the building there. Not at this point in time. I just want that property because you know what I'd love to do? I'd love to clear it and get all those trees out of there. You know what else I'd love to do with that? Put a little park in there where people could come and have weddings. Kids can hang out. I would love to have another brand new auditorium on the other end of the building in the parking lot that we have that could hold 500, 600 people. We're having 3 services on the weekend, and they're all full. We got the parking lot for it. We have a huge parking lot. I would love to see a Sunday morning where there is, and there already is, joy and laughter. I like to see what Melissa and her people are doing where we're involved in people's lives. Because that's what the church is about. Don't fall in love with the tools. Don't fall in love with the buildings. They're just tools. People is what it's about. And having a heart for people is what God wants the church to be about. Because that's what He's about. So everything that we do is about touching people's lives. Let's get a vision of what God can do with us and build on what's already been laid. Let's stand. Father, as we come to you this morning, we're kind of like that Calvin and Hobbes comic strip. We just need a kick in the pants. We need a wake-up call. Sometimes we come in and we're just so comfortable. God, we don't want to be comfortable. We want to be courageous. We want to go out and do something that has just not been done yet. We want to think in terms that you think of. God, sometimes our prayers are small because we don't think of you as being a good, big, huge, powerful God. God, help us change our thinking. Help us to get a hold of what it is we can be by your power. And God, above all, give us a love for people, because that's who you are. God, I am so thankful for each one that's here. Thank you for the sacrifice each one has made. Help us learn from their example. Give us the courage to press on. We ask all of this in the name of Jesus. Amen. I want you to depart with a blessing from the book of Numbers, the 6th chapter. And it goes like this. May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show you his favor and give you his peace. God bless you, everybody.
Yeah.